Frankie.
I'm Harold.
Oh, shoot.
And this is our special guest over here.
I'm Quafine.
Is that your whole name?
That's my whole name, Quafine Anoa Ale.
And what does that mean?
Quafine means strength and water. Anoa is the one who knows.
Mm. So, today's topic was Harold's idea, so I'm going to let him introduce.
Yeah, so as we know, a lot of people in 2018 are exploring different lifestyles, different dietary habits, different living habits, different social habits. And our guest today, Quafine, is very much involved in the alternative lifestyle. Multiple lifestyles. Quafine, would you like to break down just a few of the things that you're into?
Oh my goodness. Look, all of this stuff didn't make sense to me. So since it didn't make sense to me, I figured like at 12, we shouldn't be paying for nothing. Like, why is
okay, hold on.
I can't start there?
I want you to you can start there, but explore. Give us some I'm
going there.
This is my cousin, y'all.
Look, I gotta, escalate.
This is my cousin. She is a vegan. She's super Afrocentric. That's a lifestyle. I don't want to call you what do you call her?
Bohemian.
Yeah, I don't want to call you that, but I don't know what to call it. What's that lifestyle called?
Bohemian.
I just made a different decision than everybody. I don't call it an alternative lifestyle. I just say I made a different decision.
That's alternative.
I was just talking to Frankie the other day about, she's talking about her money situation. I just kind of listened because I haven't paid rent and bills for like 6 years.
These are facts.
And I'm not on welfare. I'm not getting public aid. I don't even have a regular job. But I decided that, if I'm going to live this type of life, then I just explored how to live it.
And not just that, you got to tell people the pros and cons. Because sometimes I feel like when you telling about your alternative living, that you don't call it that, you make it seem super glorified. I don't pay bills. I don't pay rent. I live for free, girl.
No, that's not
talk about the other stuff.
First of all, that's the reason why I gave a premise of I just made a different choice. I'm not saying that it's better or worse than anybody. It has its ups and downs living this type of lifestyle. So you're right. I'm not glorifying it. I'm just not saying what it is.
That's something that I feel like people don't do, especially when the rap world. They're like, I got this money, got these hoes. But then they don't be like, that's not my real money. I'm borrowing that money for this video.
Oh, okay.
And, just say the whole... Okay. You get what I'm saying?
How about this? How about we start with you kind of telling us, your background and what sort of led to you exploring these alternative lifestyles? Because from what I understand, it wasn't always like that. You used to be more mainline.
She used to have a job.
After certain events took place, after certain visits to certain parts of the world, you came back renewed.
Okay, Harold, the voice of reason. Anyway, Harold, right? It was a point in my life where I took care of my family. There was no way that. There was a point where I had 2 jobs. I was in school. I was doing hustling, whatever, to make sure that things was okay. People borrowed money from me. So, but I ended up deciding to leave to go to Africa. Was in Angola for 6 months. I had culture shock returning back here to the United States, as I've been here all my life and didn't know what this was. But what I saw was that this place is made up, and it only benefited the people that it was made up to benefit. So I figured, then let me go on this journey to create the same thing that will benefit people that look like me. Well, of course, you got the camera on over there that look like me,
Black, African American, for those who are just listening.
So I started out by I went to this grand opening where this young man told me a story about how he was able to get his house free and clear, and how he got his house is that he actually went through the mortgage process, signed a contract and everything. And after he signed the contract, he rescinded it and sent it back to them. And not only did he rescind it and send it back to them, he decided to plant a flag outside to also claim the land. Now, I'm new. Like, oh, this is stuff I've been looking for. That same day, I met another young man that was telling me how he helped people to keep their property without a mortgage. So I met both of, as I was going on this journey to create my a world that benefited everything that I do and people that look like me. But then I meet two young men that was going in a direction, so I ended up following that path of teaching or learning how to help people to keep their property, but also learning how to claim land and claim myself at the same time. So that's how it started. And over the last 9 years, I went further into everything: how to feed myself, how to make clothes, how to take care of your own body, knowing how everything works, knowing how to not use the public system, no social security cards, no state IDs, how to create contracts without connecting with your name. It took a life of its own on how to be here without using this current system. So
my question is, you told a story about what opened up your eyes and about the housing piece, but you didn't go into what did you do personally to start actually going into this?
Oh,
I want the story about the mansion. We want all.
Wait, hold up. It didn't even.
That question too.
It didn't. Okay. It didn't start there. It started with the young man that, I still kick with him now. He is so proud of me because he felt like I'm his star students because of the stuff that I do. That I even got to start working with his teacher. So I ended up taking a boot camp, doing a real estate boot camp with the young men that told me how to keep property. But for me, I'm still in that energy level. I shouldn't have to pay for everything. So I end up doing the marketing work in order to attract people that would pay for the program so that I can come free. This was in 2011 that I took the boot camp class. And, but that same story I just told about the two, I also went to join a group that the young man was talking about planting this flag in the land. So I joined his group too. So I joined the boot camp group and I joined his group. And that is called the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Moorish Science Temple, they went directly into we are the original people here and learning about the history and the foundation and grounding. And from them, they went directly into how to take over vacant and abandoned properties. Now, my thing was to start in places that didn't attract a lot of attention. But my friend, which I won't say his name right now because I don't know if he want his name out there. But my friend wanted to start big. So he opted to go to the mansion. And it's a mini mansion. It's sitting there. It's been empty for about 4 or 5 years. And he's like, I ain't going for no rinky-dink nothing. I want big. So at this point in my life, I'm just like, cool, whatever, what we need to do. And
breaking.
So
my child was a baby, and I'm holding her, looking at her.
We're gonna get to it. So go on ahead.
So when the day came, we got there, and first I have to premises that when this is an abandoned property, you can check the house to see if it's open. And if you're opting to go in, it has to be opened. So it wasn't opened. We opened it. And there were some people that were there that was to witness this and had to make sure to keep them calm so they know that it wasn't a criminal act.
I need you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I would like to point out that what you are describing could be interpreted as breaking and entering.
Thank you. Because she's like, oh, no, it's okay. Get that crowbar. I'm like, get that crowbar. I don't know if my fingerprint should be here. I have a child.
You do a you were doing a good job of like sugarcoating it, but that's certainly
that is not sugar.
All right. I didn't mean to interrupt the story, but go on.
So first of all, again, that's the reason why I premised it when it came to vacant and abandoned properties. Even if they're vacant and abandoned, you can do your background to see who is who and put them on notice of what you're doing. And so if what I would consider as breaking into somebody's house that lives there, or went to work for the day, that place was open and abandoned. Well, it was abandoned and vacant. It wasn't open. We didn't break in though, but we did get in. That's how.
Okay, we gotta hold up. You said you didn't break in, but you got in. You gotta tell real stories. Harold said it just right. You sugarcoat it with a little bit of marshmallow glue.
It's different ways of interpreting stories.
No, it's different ways of telling stories too. If the glove don't fit, it must have quit. That's the type of story she's telling. Harold, he got some good questions. Go ahead.
It's interesting because once we got into the place, we was in there for this was a beautiful place. I think it was 7, 8 bedrooms, 5.5 bathrooms. It even had a what's that?
A jacuzzi tub.
It had a jacuzzi. It had a paddock room. This place was beautiful. The only thing that was probably wrong with the place was that it was mold in the basement, and we knew what to do in order to take care of the mold. But it was a fully functional mini mansion in the hood.
For those who don't know, a panic room is like a safe room that people can go to if individuals do break into their house. It's where the people that live there can go and hide, and basically the room locks down, and the intruders can't enter that room and harm them.
Yeah.
So was that room unlocked? Did you have to break in there too?
No. I don't appreciate it. So what ended up happening though is that we got kicked out.
But why did you get kicked out?
I can't tell a story. So we got kicked out. The realtor came through, and he was just like, "Y'all need to leave. Y'all need to leave right now." There was about 4 or 5 police cars, detectives, 9 different cops. It was a interesting situation. None of us were in handcuffs. They wasn't attempting to threaten our lives. They was attempting to call us criminals. The captain came on the scene. The lieutenant came on the scene. And he stepped up on his little crate so he can make the announcement in front of all of his people. And what he said was, "This is not a criminal matter. This is a civil matter." As a newbie, I'm thinking, all right, it's good. But we end up getting intimidated out by the detectives and the police. We didn't have to leave. It wasn't a criminal matter. We weren't in handcuffs. They didn't put us in none of that. But at that point, I didn't know how to stand and keep the space. And my partner that I was with at the time didn't either. So we left. And although that was our first space, that was the first experience was taking over an abandoned place. And that's how I learned from that point. Once the police announce that it's a civil matter, then the thing I was supposed to say is that ask them to leave. You need to leave now. This is a civil matter, and the realtor needs to leave. Y'all all need to go. Take your people. But I didn't. So when I left the space. Yeah.
But that wasn't the first house, or that wasn't the last house, rather.
No. I've been into a couple of places. I ended up joining a group called, I ended up joining a citywide group that ended up taking over abandoned and vacant properties. And we was in, of course, in most of the South Side neighborhoods, from as far north as probably 39th to as far as south is 117th. And I went into maybe 20 or 30 abandoned places. Some of them, I jumped over gates, crawled into windows. Most of the places were open. Some of them weren't. But I learned a lot about how to get into vacant spaces, how to secure them, how to do background research on all the abandoned places, to moving people in, starting different, literally people who were homeless who need a place to stay, how we capture the abandoned house, fix it up, move them in, and make sure they have a place to stay. That was a big group that I was a part of citywide. One of the groups that it was connected to was called the Anti-Eviction Campaign. And Anti-Eviction Campaign was an international organization connected with South Africa, I think New York, and then Chicago. That was taking over abandoned properties.
I had a question. What do you think it would be like if more homeless people, or whatever you want to call it, was doing what you're doing? What do you think that's like serious question. Like, what do you think the economy will be? Like, how do you think? I think laws and stuff will be changed, and it'll get more aggressive, and they'll try to change it to a criminal thing because it'll be too many people trying to live for free.
So, in my experience, it's two things that happen. The bubble burst that happened between 2008 and 2013, there was a situation where there was tent cities, and
I'm sorry, you said 10 cities?
Tent cities. So a lot of times people who are homeless don't opt to go into a vacant abandoned property. They feel they don't want to go through the situation where they have to get put out or put in jail for some type of criminal act.
Is it like, what's that street called in LA? That
Skid Row.
It's like Skid Row, yeah.
That's more for like that's a little more negative connotation.
Yeah,
but they were staying in tents and stuff. It was like a whole bunch of homeless people living outside.
But what happened with the 10 cities is that the police still came to the people and told them they had to leave.
But they still on land that's not paid for.
And so it's like, you can't be here either. So it's like, we so but what ended up happening between 2008 and 2013 was that it's not that they put people out. They end up putting people into court cases because some people are considered squatters. And
aren't you considered a squatter?
No. There's a difference between someone who's what I'm doing is moving forward to claim the land, the whole land. They can take the house off the land, but they still can't take the land, and I can just rebuild and still live on the land. So I go directly and deal with any legal anything. But it's some people that is a part of my circle that don't go to court. They don't go to court. They don't deal with the police. They go from abandoned house to abandoned house. So every 2 or 3 years they get a new space, because either there's new people or there's But back to your question, that stuff does happen. They do start to figure out a way to get the people out of the house. So we constantly have to create new strategies and new things in order to keep people in the spaces. Whether it's connected with a not-for-profit organization or connected with the church or doing a lot of marketing and news campaigns to make sure that these people in these places are acknowledged and not connected back to how it was gotten.
Here's my question. What's the main motivation behind doing this? Because I'm sure a lot of people would think, wouldn't it just be easier to get a mortgage and get a regular job and pay for the property that you live on versus having to go through all these legal battles, getting evicted from this place, the police showing up, dealing with realtors and property owners and them trying to get you off the land? Wouldn't it be easier to just do things in a more conventional way?
Short answer, no. Long answer.
Right.
The long answer is I have to go back to the beginning when I spoke about how when I had culture shock coming back to the States. And what I noticed here is that people here don't see you and they don't care what you're going through. You are a roach. They step on you or step over you. They don't care how you living. They don't care how you get there. It's like if you see somebody on the street bleeding, crying, and suffering, it's like, I got to get to work. So for me, what ended up happening, I went directly into, okay, how seeing that you can just make this stuff up out of thin air, then I'm gonna do the same. And so living this type of life go directly into there's the ups and downs or the trials and tribulations in order to get to a space of foundation so that somebody else doesn't have to repeat what I have done. People don't have to do this if I'm creating a system in order for or creating a system or creating a way in which people can be able to live without certain burdens, like rent and bills.
You know, as my cousin and as somebody that see the whole situation that you're going through, you making it sound, like I said, you're not glorifying, but you making it sound real educated because you're an educated woman. But
you want the real.
I want the real. Like,
okay,
how do you feel? Are you always like comfortable being at your house, or would you like to sometimes be laid up in a house that already got heat, that you ain't got to struggle and go cheat and be like, hey, I need you to cut on this heat illegally?
That's one thing.
Wait.
That's one thing we haven't gotten into, all the difficulties associated with
that's what I'm
living in these properties.
You breaking it down and you saying it, and I'm like, man, she's saying real educated. She know her stuff, but for real, I want to see the actual part.
Well, that was the reason why I said it, and the ups and downs of the different changes that you can go through when you first beginning this. So when I first began this, it's like I would just go home. I just wanted to do it. I'm like, man, it makes sense. The law say this. I'm trying it. And although I was brand new, there was other people that weren't brand new. They'd been doing a lot longer than I have. I had to connect with a lot of people who understood about gas, lights, water. People that had water keys because I moved into spaces that didn't have water, didn't have gas, or didn't have lights. It's a lot of names that I cannot say because they helped me, because they loved me, because I'm me. I can say that now. Anyway, but I know people that has been fixing lights and doing electricity work for some time, but they don't have licenses and they don't have certifications, although they know what to do. The same thing, people that have water keys, because once people move out of the building, or once you let the water department come into certain buildings, they come in with the water keys and they turn off the water. For environmental issues, safety issues, or whatever, they turn it off. But I knew people that had water keys that came in and turned it on. Same thing for gas. And that's just like the basis in the beginning of being in places where, although as I was new in the law, it's some things that I just figured, if I want lights and I can't pay for them, then I'm either have to put it in somebody else's name if they sent anything to me, or I'm have to make up a name because I had stopped using Social Security numbers.
Yeah.
Or figure out a way to connect with a space where a social security number was not necessary in order to start an account.
You know what? I want to give you an example of the real story I'm talking about. So, I stayed with my cousin for a small period of time in one of these spaces. And I'm going to tell y'all right now, I wasn't about that life. Not at all. And it was difficult for me staying there, even though I was only there like to sleep. I just felt like, one, it was too far. Two, it was a lot of things that you had to do in your place, like plumbing. Mm-hmm. And what was that thing with the ceiling?
Oh, it came in.
That's the real I was talking about. I want you to tell people that, because it's going to be some people that listen to this like, man, I want to look up Coiffine and what she doing, find your website and talk to you. And then when they go into it, like for real, like they going to have to like, man, did I do this gun hold? Am I about this life? Because I wasn't.
Well, and that's the thing, is that the type of life I was living is not for the faint of heart.
Is it really for you though? Because you got a man.
Oh boy.
Go ahead.
He don't how lit is life. He's
Hey, I
not
see.
about that life.
So you have time with the light. It ain't for the faint of heart. Because when I get tired of this shit, I go to my man.
Well, before I even met him, I was over there on 82nd. We was living in this space with no lights for 6 months.
Yeah, you met him through the guy you were staying in the building with.
Kind of. But so we didn't have any lights. We did have gas, and we made sure to have heat because we're in Chicago, but we had no lights. And the way we were able to be in this space without no lights is that we had to have candles or get batteries, or keep each other company for some reason. But yeah, that's the reason why I say it's not for the faint of heart. If you're used to a certain way of life, then I'm sorry, I had to go back to a story, and that's one of the reasons why I was able to handle this. When I was in Angola, and the way the organization I was a part of trained me, they trained me to expect not to have much at all. They expected me to go fetch my water. They told me that I would live in a hut. They let me know that I'll have to wash my clothes in the river. I mean, they basically trained me to let me know that don't go to these places and expect to have electricity, because that's just not how this works. So I was prepared for that. But when I got to the place, I had a house, I had electricity, water, a bath. I'm like, why would they train me like this if I'm going to a place that's already fully functional? So when I got into the building that I was in, it was more like not having lights was not something that was uncomfortable for me. If I'm going to do this and I'm just like, well, there's no lights, what do I need to do in order to be able to be comfortable, but have a place to stay and still live this life? Even though it took 6 months to make the decision to get the lights on, we got the lights on. The reason why the house didn't have lights is because in abandoned properties, some people know how to come into the space and take the wiring or the copper wiring out, and that's what they did. They took the main wire that connected to the outside electricity. So it wasn't connected to a main line because they took it out of the house. And so I literally had to find an electrician that was willing to do it for me without having to go through the rigmarole of, we can't do this for you because you're not the owner and such and such. I just, called up a friend and said, look, I need to get a drop in the house so I can have electricity. And so, yeah, it took a little bit, but...
What about gas? I mean, we live in Chicago. The winters are brutal. Have you ever ran into a situation where, people's gas wasn't supplying gas to the apartment?
No.
Or the building?
If you know the laws.
I know Chicago, by law, they have to supply, but I thought that was only for places that have official residents.
No. How it works for the utilities is that it don't matter if you own the property or not. As long as you have a name on this account, that's it.
Okay.
You have a name on the account, you have an address, we send the gas.
So he's never been an issue. Heat's never been an issue.
Heat's only been an issue once. Heat been an issue only once, and that was last year. Last year we had gas on in the house for 5 years with no payment. And no. It was 2 years. It was 1 year that we had to do something to get it back on, but we got it back on. And then the last year, they just turned it completely off from the street. And we had no heat for the entire winter.
That's intense.
So,
how does that?
Yeah.
So we had to use heaters or space heaters. And my place was not insulated enough, and I still slept in there. It was probably like 10 degrees outside. I was in one room, 10 degrees or less. I was in one room, one heater, and I was under the blanket. So if I wanted to use the bathroom, the water may have been frozen. Still use the bathroom, but the water's frozen. And it's interesting because in that situation, the pipes break, and when everything thaws, it's a problem for plumbing. So yeah, it was 2 years in which I was in a place where there was no heat. Well, there was a heater, but there was no gas.
Okay. So I want to go back to one of the earlier questions that I had. Maybe you answered it and I just didn't pick up on it. But again, what's your main motivation for doing it? You're clearly, an able-bodied person. You could very easily rent or buy property in your name. Mm-hmm. What's the main motivation for keeping you in these abandoned properties?
Okay. I've been asked this question a couple of times. I need to start writing this stuff down. What came to me in 2012 is that I wanted to live in truth. And what I meant by truth is that we're living in a space where everything is a lie. And since it's a lie, people have powers and controls of what we do in our lives. And I had to make a hard decision because I was on a link card. I was on a link card. I was like,
to give up that free food.
I was like, shit, I want to live in truth. But that would require me giving up things that will make my life a lot easier, like Medicaid, Medicare, public aid, link card, state ID, social security numbers. All this stuff is convenient. But I'm just like, if I want to live this life, and if I'm supposed to be living this life, then I'm gonna do it all the way. And that was the day that I asked myself, then, if I live this life, how I'm going to feed myself? And I had to think. I'm like, if I'm really going to do this, how am I going to feed myself? And what came to me that day or that week was like, I'm going to have to learn how to farm. I'm going to have to eat less. I'm going to have to become a vegan. I'm going to have to become I'm going to have to change my diet so that I can be able to live this life. And maybe a week later, one of my people that I work with, she came to me and she was like, it's a farm down the street. And I'm like, what? I went to it and it was a greenhouse that I've been living down for the last 2 years. And from that day on, I started to farm. I changed my diet. I gave up the link card. It was like I wanted to take this path. And it just made sense to me to be able to be in control of my own path in my own life without something telling me that I can't do this or you have to do it this way. And if you don't do it the way we want it to, you're going to go to jail or get taxed and all that. I'm just like, I let it go.
I've got a question for you. My thing is, we're getting older. All of us getting older. I ain't going to say your exact age, but
Thank you.
You in your 30s.
We all are. So.
But you're a little older. No, I'm just playing. Kidding. But you really want to continue doing this in your 40s and 50s? Like, on some realistic stuff? Because my goal is, I'm under 35, y'all. But by the time I'm 35, I want to have a house. I don't want to be in an apartment and, paying rent to people. I want to own something. And I feel good when I pay for that. You know what I'm saying? But, what is your long-term goal when it comes to this? Do you want to start a program to help people? Do you want to eventually... Because I'm not trying to put you out there, but you let go. You live in this free life or whatever you want to call it. But you still have these luxuries that you have. Realistically,
mm-hmm. I get a lot of support. I can say that. I got a lot of support. So the other thing this question is awesome because that same day as I'm thinking about how I'm going to feed myself, I also thought of, what do I really want to do with this? And what came to me is that living in truth requires that we get back to our original self. I started a organization, and I still have it. I still use it for everything that I do. It's a spiritual temple. And with the spiritual temple, it focuses on making sure that we study and know ourselves, because we are our own solutions, our own power, our own authority. But we have to study the self and know the self to know our own answers and our own solutions. There's a lot of different opportunities when we're able to let go of the confines. Anyway, the long-term goal is to make sure that I'm in my correct self in spirit, emotional, mentally, physically, that in my own practice, my own spiritual practices, it goes directly into, once you are able to let go, things come to you. It's not something that you have to work towards to get. It will come to you because it's meant for you. And so, so my long-term goal is to make sure to complete whatever mission or purpose I'm here to complete.
I like your answer, and I like how you answered, but you didn't really answer my question. My question is, you go to court and stuff for these properties, and then you even said this yourself, that stuff gets switched up, they keep changing it up. Do you really feel like you're going to continue as you get older, when they keep changing up the algorithms or whatever you want to call it of the situation, that you're going to continue to want to do this in your 40s, 50s, 60s? That's my question.
Yeah, the thing that came to me was self-governance. In order to make sure that if I'm practicing this, then I'm supposed to get better at this. And there's nothing new that exists. So as I'm getting better and not just claiming and capturing homes and lands and helping people to do the same, but I'm also making sure to use those lands or claims to create a space with which I don't have to, and others don't have to repeat the same thing again. And so a lot of times I often talk about how it's a separation between public government and private governments. So public governments goes directly into, you have to follow by our rules and laws and things or you'll get locked up. But it's people that exist that understand how to separate themselves from this and how to work their own government in their own land, in their own nation. So as they're working their own governments, their own land, their own nation, their own entities, then they make sure to have good relations with others that exist too. So the whole overall bigger plan is to make sure that whatever I'm doing is connecting back to an organization, to a nation, to a government that agrees or is a part of what I'm doing already. So I'm not in my 40s and 50s and 60s still doing the same thing.
So it seems like a big part of your overall philosophy is in alignment with what I would consider to be the sovereign citizen movement in this country. Because just to be clear, you do not identify as an American citizen.
No, I don't.
Do you consider yourself a citizen of any nation? Are you nationless?
I am. I am a part of a nation.
Okay, but not an American.
No.
So would you say that your views line up with? Are you familiar with the sovereign citizen?
I'm familiar with what they say about it, but they come from like a white perspective.
Yeah, I mean, ignoring the white nationalism, or I guess it wouldn't be nationalism, but the white supremacy is a lot of times associated with that. Mm-hmm. But factoring that out, like the idea of no government involvement in my life, I'm my own person. The state doesn't have any control over me. Is that something that you kind of identify with?
Well, I got to give a premise before I can say my own answer. In the beginning of this country, they had a connection between church and state. It was one. So the church had different laws and rules in which the state had to follow until they separated the church and state. So if you have a state government or city, state, municipal, county government, there's different governments that exist, but it was separate from whatever church or whatever church governments. The laws are different. And although they both exist at the same time, the church doesn't adhere to the state laws. The church doesn't adhere to the federal laws. They can compromise or attempt to be a part of each other, but a church itself can be a sanctuary for the different state laws, and it cannot be enforced inside of that church or inside of that church government, wherever that church is. That's the same thing in which I identify with, is that there's a separation between me and the state, or between me and the country. And those laws in which exist, I understand and respect, but those are not my laws. The laws that I go by is the laws that was given to me from birth. I follow those. And as I follow those, I make sure that the people that I'm around, we create our own or have our own things in which we follow. And as we follow those things, we are going towards what our real goal is. But I know that I have a sanctuary that I can, live in and go to, because that's the things that I do. So if I'm having a conflict internally with my sanctuary, I can't run back to the public government, because now I'm saying I'm not a part of that government. Because all they can do is say, well, are you a part of us or not? And if you're a part of us, then you need to follow all of these laws. So,
you kind of sound like, you are a rebel, basically. You kind of sound like somebody like, I ain't about to live with my mama no more. I'm about to go live with mom. I ain't about to deal with that. And then like, I can't go back to mama. I gotta stay strong. I can't go back to mama. That's how you sound. You got a unique way of answering questions. I gotta interview you more. Cause I'm just like, I asked you this. You go around the whole thing. You give me the history. I'm like, right. That's not what I asked you though.
I mean, I like you don't always get straight to the answer, but I like the full background that you give for a lot of your questions. It's not just a clear yes, no response.
Oh, it was one answer I give no.
Yeah, that was real quick. You're like, you trying to say that? No.
Well, no, she said that, but then she gave a follow. She's like, this is the short, this is the long.
Man. But living this type of life, once I did, because a lot of people started with me, and they have stopped. But for me, I started to get deeper and deeper into it, because I can see where it can go. And just like when people start businesses, they can have a vision. They have like, man, we can do this, we can add that, we can see in the next 5 years and 10 years how it can grow and go, and how we can even live without you. That's what I see with living this type of lifestyle. There's a vision. I mean, it's different, but it's interesting. It's very interesting being able to, and it's just off the cuff, being able to have government to government relations with the United States of America, and making sure that if I need to deal with things legally, that I cannot go into the public. They have to deal with me privately. It's beautiful to be able to deal with because I've grown a little bit, that I don't have to just I don't have to reach out and find somebody to hook up my gas for me, but that I can get directly in contact with the people that's over the gas and utility companies and let them know who I am. I'm starting an account. This is who I am. You can't charge me.
Yeah, you said that kind of cocky. It's like, do you know who I am?
Yeah. And it's interesting to, like, for somebody to have a particular status, you let them know what your status is. I'm not a U.S. citizen. I'm not a corporate citizen. I'm not a 13th Amendment citizen. I'm not whatever you have claimed that I am. This is who I am. And this is what you do for who I am. And it's not being cocky. It's just being a matter of fact.
There is one very, very interesting fact that we're leaving out of this story. And that's that, I think she knows where I'm going with this. That's that she used to be a member of our armed services.
Oh, shit.
Right? Now, of course, I want to understand that all predates this, whole ideology becoming fully rooted and a part of her identity. But I feel like, did that factor into, what made you who you are?
Oh my god!
If you don't want to talk about it, we can always.
I say that wasn't. That wasn't.
And if you don't want to get into it, that's fine.
I don't know. All I know is that being in the military, the main thing I remember is that I went through depression. I didn't go through suicidal stuff, but I went through like not being myself because the military is something else. You are not a male or female. You are a soldier, and your contract is to die. So I didn't really start studying until after college. I didn't know all of this stuff. I didn't know about what the military was. I just knew I didn't like it.
Were any of the experiences you had in the military a factor in you kind of renouncing American citizenship?
No, that didn't happen till I went to Africa.
Okay.
When I came back from Africa, it was like, what the hell is this? I literally went through culture shock because I've been here my entire life. And I never saw what I saw until I returned here.
Go into more details of what you saw when you returned here. Walk us through what you saw.
So
give people visual.
So in Africa, like when I got there, it was even before I got off the plane, it was welcoming. It was like they saw you, they know who you were. There was this one dude from the time I got off the plane to the time I left the country, he kept in contact with me. He made sure to check in with me. He made sure to because my bags never came. I lost a lot of stuff. But my bags never came. But he went to the airport for me. He didn't know who I was. But that happened throughout my entire travels. It was one time I was traveling and I'm in the city. There's a lot of people walking through just like this, like here in Chicago. And a child came up to me and he was like, "Are you lost?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am lost." And this is all in Portuguese. And he was like, "Well, where are you trying to go?" So I told him that I'm going out of town, and he knew exactly what the bus was. He walked me to the bus, and he said, "Have a nice day." I experienced that for a whole 6 months of being in a place where people didn't know who I was. And yet when I walked down the street, they acknowledged me. And anyway, the experience was interesting. But when I came back to the States, people didn't see you. Like I'm at the airport. I didn't have any money because when I got off the plane from Angola, they took all of my Angolan money, and I didn't know that I had to exchange my Angolan money for the U.S. dollars so that I can be able, because I couldn't take their money out of the country, so I had no money. I needed to wash up. The organization I was a part of wouldn't pick me up. My bank account was closed down because it was bought by Chase. So I'm at the airport and I'm like, I need help. And I went to the police station. The police wouldn't help me. They said, "Well, there's nothing we can do."
Right. That won't make sense to go to the police. But you were like, the bank closed down.
Wait. I was still in the airport. And I'm just like, is there if there's a way to help travelers that's going through something, I need to get to this bank, just to get some help. And it's like, we can't help you. There's nothing we can do. So I'm there in this situation. I'm just like, I'm back in the States, and I having this awesome experience from Angola. Well, this experience from Angola, and I'm trying to get back to this organization, debating if I just want to just go home instead of going back to this organization. I just kind of looked around and saw how everything worked at the airport, how everything worked with the police or the bus station. And what I observed from Angola, I'm just like, this is a government that if you see how things work from the top, you see how it's trickled down through how people interact and work and connect with each other. And it's real, I wouldn't say isolated, but it's like, if you're not doing this, if you're not into this, everybody into their own world and not really connected to what's going on around them. And I'm like, this comes from the top. It's not something that these people that's walking around me created or even know that they created. And so
that experience you had, not necessarily everyone like that. Because I've told you, I had several experiences where I was just walking down the street, me and Candace, and a woman be like,
yes.
She was like, God told me that you needed help. Here's $20 for you and your baby.
I ain't never experienced no.
Yes.
I'm not gonna say it don't happen.
I've experienced it several times out of nowhere, and then it'd be like, cut. Like, man, I had like $10, but ain't nobody know that. How does lady know that? God over there helping me out. He heard it like, thanks, John. You know what G.O.D. Yeah, you know me. But
I can say, even just, I've traveled the United States a lot. In different cities, you get a different welcoming in different cities. I feel like out west, on the West Coast, people are a hell of a lot friendlier than they are here in Chicago. I mean, I
like the West Coast.
Right. I feel you with the story about the $20 and
No. That happened to me on the train. When I go around, especially around this time, if I'm in Target or Walmart, it'd be like a guy behind me like, don't worry, I got her and her daughter stuff. I'm like,
that ain't, I ain't. If any of y'all listening to this have ever experienced that, please chime in.
If any of you that remember me and see this, thank you, because I appreciate that. I appreciate y'all.
That is not what this city is known for. I can say that much.
I was in New York when I get off the boat. When I get off the plane.
Yeah, New York is known to be a rude place.
Yeah.
And you was looking for support in New York.
I was like,
sorry.
Help, please, help. I wasn't walking around saying help, but I was just like, man, this is a situation. I need some help.
Yeah, New York known for not giving a fuck.
Yeah. And so, but anyway,
and that's just the tip of the iceberg with Coffee. We just exploring her living habits for the most part right now.
Right.
We ain't even got into the spirituality, the Afrocentrism.
Yeah.
There's a lot more. We scratching the surface right now.
And I don't know if you want to talk about this on the podcast or not, but I met that man through you, one of your events. The dude from Black Star.
Yeah, Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
Phil Jackson was an interesting dude.
Phil Jackson.
Yeah. He just recently transitioned. Well,
oh no.
He's no longer.
Show you.
He's no longer in this physical plane.
But she was associated with him. That's like a pro-black and Hispanic group.
He hooked me up and let me do a female-led program at high school.
You know?
He looked kind of familiar.
He's always on the news. He's always on ABC.
Phil Jackson was that dude. He wasn't as he's not as on the edge as I am, but
he was about that life.
He was about that life. He made sure to challenge the status quo in his way, and so I need to call and talk to his wife.
You know what? I'm gonna edit this out.
What are you doing?
I wanted to play a little sound effect, but I can't find it. But never mind. It would be a special sound effect for you.
Oh my goodness! But
she was responding to like a phone call.
No, I have my phone. Do not disturb. But I wanted to play the sound effect. I'm like, that's gonna be
But I did a lot of research on real alternative living, and I want to do some training.
Hold on, real
alternative living.
You mean it's the next level?
Next level, yes.
Right.
It's they have a 2-year program where they teach people how to build their own bricks, how to create their own bricks, build their own house, have their own electrical grid, Wi-Fi grid system. How to when you build your house to create it in which you can be able to grow inside and outside, so you can be able to feed yourself. I'm like, this is all the way off grid.
This sounds like alternative living for when the world ends.
This is definitely some post-apocalyptic.
Yeah,
right.
You gotta do all this by yourself when all the zombies come out.
First of all, but that's what I'll be saying to people. Like, man, if we can, if anybody's making this decision to be able to disconnect themselves from the public, I call it the public, but disconnect themselves from the U.S. government and all of their programs and numbers and identifications and all of that, then how do you survive? How do you make sure to still take care of yourself? As as Frankie, you said already, it's still some things and people that I get a lot of support from. The people I'm still learning from.
You ain't 100%. You ain't about that life.
And that's the only reason I'm just like real off grid. That
because I ain't put you out there. I'm like, when I'm with them, I thought I want to be.
But now I'm in a new space and it's different. It's
because you're in a real house. It's with a tub.
It's different. But the space that I was in before, I want to write about it. I want to make sure to.
I got the pictures and video because when I was bored in that motherfucker, I was like, look what my cousin left me.
But you brought a lot of people into this lifestyle. You have a decent following at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do any of the people ever end up regretting it?
Again, some of the people don't. They still ask me. They even still ask me why I'm still doing this. They're like, I'm done with this life.
I should.
Why are you still doing it?
I should do a. That's what I'm saying. Like, what's your long term thing? I should do the shout out to Queen D that went to one of your workshops, and she was like, I want. She kept telling me she ain't never reached out to you because she ain't got your number, but whatever you told her worked for her housing situation. But she not living for free.
Yeah,
she just did some legal stuff to get her rent lowered.
Yeah,
I'm like.
Yeah, it's okay. With my spiritual temple, I help people to not have to do vaccinations because you don't have to, even from your children all the way up to your jobs. And make sure that you have affidavits. What I want to make sure to do is connect to the cemeteries to make sure that people have a space and place to have. If they want their body there, they wouldn't have to pay for it because they're part of a religious organization. So it's a lot of different things that people can do. Again, going with that, I'm going to use that example of separation between church and state, is that because it's a spiritual organization, it's some things that people are waived from or don't have to do, but don't necessarily have to live this whole alternative life.
I feel like you said a whole bunch of stuff and you rushed through it. One, that's a whole topic in itself, how you said with the vaccinations. Yeah. I know some people like, she said what?
Oh boy.
You know, right, that's like a whole...
Scratching the tip of the iceberg.
If people don't want to get exempted from vaccinations, they don't have to. But for those who are opting not to, don't.
The problem, I mean, we won't get into the vaccine stuff. Maybe not right now. That is a whole separate conversation.
She's going to come back, y'all, to be continued. but yeah. Well, we didn't even scratch the surface for the rest of this stuff.
We were mostly talking about the housing situation, and there's a ton of other things. Like, I was not trying to exaggerate when I said that she has multiple alternative lifestyles. Pretty much all the lifestyles are alternative.
You know what? I'm happy that you didn't bring up veganism because I'm gonna put you on blast. I'm gonna put you on blast.
No, because I'm still I'm a growing,
she ain't 100% vegan.
I'm a growing vegan. Okay,
she been growing for 5 years.
No, it ain't. Okay,
all right, man.
Vegan is a serious life, but I'm willing to give it up. I'm willing to continue.
You get him to give it up? Yeah, I'm
by giving it up, you mean drop down to well, not that it's like a hierarchy, but vegetarianism is a step below veganism.
Veganism is extreme.
So are you going to that? Or
shout out to Blair.
But that's a part of my lifestyle too, the vegan piece, and the reason I opted to be a vegan because it's cheaper for me. I understand that when things go down, I know what to eat.
Hold on, you say you're a vegan because it's cheaper for you? So if you won a lottery one day, fuck me and the vegan, give me that burger. That's what you.
No, I mean it's interesting because having natural hair is cheaper. It's just cheaper.
Yeah,
and so the same thing with being a vegan. It's just cheaper. But I'm coming from I need to stop talking a cheap standpoint and just say it's.
Yeah, there's a lot of girls that's not cheap. They just like to have natural hair.
Like natural hair
because just healthier.
That means I need to change my language. It ain't cheap.
It's good. Like, first of all, because from a cheap person, but yeah, you this your topic. What other questions you got?
Well, I mean, again, there's so much to talk about here that maybe it is worth breaking this up in a few different separate interviews.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about your website or any information that people can use if they're interested in this lifestyle?
Yes. Oh my goodness. For the housing piece, if people are interested in the housing piece, I am organizing a boot camp. The boot camp is focused on, of course, how to keep your property, but also how to acquire property with no money, no credit, no mortgage. But the boot camp is not until the end of January or February. I'll be sending out e-blasts.
Well, first of all, you gotta let people know what email to go to. You gotta let people know what website.
So, oh my goodness.
You don't know your website, girl?
I know that I had to think about it because it's not on that particular website. So that you can email me at, it's a long email.
The website is a little shorter.
The website is shorter, but that's not how to. Okay, you can go to my website, UKUUNKI.org, and send me an email. You will see my email on there, or fill out the contact form, and I can be able to respond for you and put you on the list. There's an upcoming seminar on December 15th, and December 15th, January 5th, and the 19th for the real estate boot camp. And we'll be focusing a lot on the housing piece. But I also have there it is. I also have a housing ministry. The housing ministry is called QVS Consulting. And right now we help people to keep their property. But the boot camp is to help people, to help them the whole system of what we use and how we help people. And so, yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on, Quafine. Like I said, we just getting into it with her and all the things that she's into. So, we look forward to having you on the show in future episodes.
Man, I'm glad I came through today. Thank you.
We've been trying to get this together for a good while. We've been trying to get this going.
Man, yeah. Thanks. That was the conclusion of our show. Hopefully you learned more about this alternative lifestyle. And for people who, because you said it's not for the faint of hearts, and my heart ain't faint. I ain't about that life. But for the people that want to try it and you just want to live a little, I guess, break into a place.